Richard here with the Men of the House. What does flaky mean to you? And do you think we're living in a flaky world? Tune in as I talk to Dell Jackson, who's the creator of hashtag Flakedemic, whose mission it is to make the world a little less flaky. We're going to talk about his upbringing, his time in college, and as he left college and went into a corporate environment and ultimately into management. Hope you enjoy.
Let's go. Asteroid of fear.
Welcome to another episode of the Men of the House podcast, where we explore unfiltered truths of fatherhood, self-care, mental health, and navigating the chaos of everyday life. Today, I have Dell Jackson on. I met him through a mutual acquaintance through TikTok, Marcel at Gray Hairwear or Tomorrow Needs You. And if you haven't heard that episode, make sure you go back and listen to that episode. But we have Dell here on the other side. And I'm going to let him introduce himself and kind of tell you what he's all about. And then we're going to get into some conversation here. So it's off to
Cool.
you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Hello, my name is Dell. I'm here. I'm thankful for being here. This is my first podcast I've ever been on, ever. So
Awesome.
I'm very excited and nervous.
Don't be nervous. We're just having to talk here.
Yes. And I like to talk. So, all right.
Me too.
It should come smooth. Yes, we met through Marcel, Gray Hairwear, Tomorrow Needs You. A great person, a great individual. I got to hang out with him again yesterday.
Awesome.
At a pizza eating contest he was in. I went to go support him. So
How'd he do?
he came in second. He came in second.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to give him some kudos, some congrats.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I wanted to go support him, and I'm thankful for him linking me with you because like we talked the other night for, I don't know, it was like an hour on the phone straight, like, so that's like, it was like a good vibe and it was easy. I sat in my car and talked to you. Like I was gonna start in the car and then like kind of walk, and then I got comfortable because the conversation was so good. So yeah, I'm glad to be here. Um I have a company called the Flakedemic. This is my company here. It's a social experiment and a social experiment, and it's a talking point that I want to bring to the world because there's a lot of flakiness in the world that I've seen. So I'm out doing like surveys, if you want to call it a survey, asking people, what does flaky mean to you? And then follow-up questions are, do you think there's a problem in society, and things like that? And then how can we get better? So I really wanted to come out and just have a talking point and share different experiences and stories and point of views on the topic. Because it's so broad. It's like a broad topic that everything can be flaky. Your pet can be flaky. Like I know flaky pets. So yeah. So like, yeah. And I love to talk to people, like you. So I really want to get out here and do that. So yeah, thank you.
Well, so what we're going to do is you've kind of told the audience what you're about in terms of, this social experiment. And in order to get into that, um, I always like to explore how somebody got where they were, how this became kind of your passion project, the same way that podcasting became mine. And it's usually it's partially through a lifetime events, beliefs, and systems that the world puts on us, and then some personal experience, and then, kind of the way I found myself, and, the audience is going to hear is that we usually have some sort of event. In the medical field, they call it like sentinel events, where something happens and they realize something and there needs to be a change. And um, we, I don't really feel comfortable with the term creator, but kind of as creators, we kind of step into this role and want to tell that story and take those experiences that shaped us and kind of give them to the world. One, to see if they can relate, two, to let other people know they're not alone. But then three, it's really about kind of starting that conversation and getting people thinking so we can figure out how to make it better. So, but
Yes.
let's start off. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
I'm from Chicago. Grew up on the south side of Chicago. From there, only child, single
Me
mother
too.
raised me. Yeah, nice. Hey, only child in the house,
Yep.
raised the roof.
It's one of
Yeah.
those things I think you learn to become very comfortable in your own skin.
Yes. Yep.
You
Yep.
learn
Yep.
not to need anyone. I mean, like, I'm the kind of person, like, I go to concerts alone. I don't mind going to dinner by myself. I don't mind going to a movie by myself.
Oh, I tried that one time. I went to the movie by myself, and it was like I was there. I took myself on a date, and I went, and I was just like, all right, let's like. So I went to dinner by myself, and then I go to the movie, and I'm sitting there, and then everybody around me was couples, and then everybody's like hugged up, and I'm like people I know, like they're looking at me like, look at this lonely weirdo over here, poor guy. I'm just like, no, I did it for me, but it was a little weird. I don't know. I need a buddy.
So what was it like growing up? Like, um, did your mom, what kind of values did you grow up with? Because I find that that's kind of my value system is, you know, while it may
Mm,
have gotten off track in the past, it's definitely at 47, it's, kind of come back stronger than ever. And my
yeah.
values are what I kind of hold true to and
Hmm.
where I come from. So, what kind of values did your mother instill in you?
She gave me a lot of opportunity to be myself, and she didn't restrict me to things like she was like a mom on the south side of Chicago. If I messed up, like I didn't get like spankings or whatever, but my mom, like, she did a couple things, here and there that reminded me, don't fuck around, dude. So I learned that lesson. I'm like, damn, my mom's like a superhero. Some of the shit she done, like when I get suspended from school, I come home and she does some superhero shit. I'm like, how did you do that? Okay, now I know my mom's a gangster. So I didn't get in trouble. I wasn't a troublemaker, but my mom always made sure that I had because I was the only child. I have a lot of cousins, so I was always with my family. So the family value, that's what it was. It was like stay together, stay close. We always celebrated holidays together. We get together, we ate, we just celebrated. But then like it, later on, like everybody gets a little older, it kind of diminishes a little, but we
Hmm.
still hold that family value. And she just wanted me to just be happy and explore. When I was in seventh grade, she just was like, yo, go live in Colorado with your aunt. And I was like, all right. And then but that was her like trying to open up my eyes to other things. So I think that's what started me loving to travel and loving to see different demographics and talk to different people, like in different areas and things like that. So yeah, seventh grade, moved to Aurora, Colorado, moved out there, then went back to Chicago, eighth grade, then came back to Denver, and then went back out. It was bing, bang, bang, bang. But
How was it? What did that those experiences kind of what
mm,
because those are very formidable years when you're becoming a teenager, you're kind of reaching puberty, you're
mm,
kind of turning into what you think is a man. I mean, at least in your mind.
oh yeah.
But what kind of lessons did you learn that you've kind of brought all the way with you up until now? What was something you noticed?
Um, just being a genuine person. Um, I remember when I moved to Colorado, like they were like, "Oh, it's the Chicago boy." Daryl thought I was just some gangster, like some kid that was gonna come try to take over the school. And like, nah, like I'm cool. And I was just really getting into basketball, so that was my thing. Basketball was my thing. But just it was I don't know. It took a while for people to try to like get acquainted with me because I was different. I
Right.
dressed different too. And they dress different and they talk different than I did. So they were like, "What are you saying? Like, what is that?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, hey, hey, hey." So it was a culture shock because the school that I went to, I don't think we had any white kids in my school when I was in grade school. And then I go to Colorado, and I mean, it's like all it's like mostly, white.
Yeah.
And it was cool. And that right there helped me also to try to like and to make sure like, hey, like we're all the same person. Even though I didn't have an experience, I mean I knew, you know, I had like family members that's white, but like I wasn't around, like especially in a school setting.
Hmm.
It was like my teachers was the only white people really in the school.
Yeah.
But like I get out here and and it was just so, but they were inviting and it helped me open up my horizons to be the better person, like a better person, to accept more and things like that.
Yeah. It was kind of similar, kind of where we grew up in that it's very small. My mother's Mexican, and there's very few Mexicans, especially when I was growing up in the 80s and stuff and 90s. I always joked that me and one of my good friends were both of our moms were Mexicans, our dad were white, and so it was like together we made up the only Mexican in the school. But there was a few there were but I'm talking like maybe 10 or less in the whole school, and that's from like K through 12. um, but yeah, it's different, especially, because in the Latino culture too, it's very family oriented. We're not going to daycares typically. You're typically some family friend who's the grandmother is who rolls tortillas every day is,
Hmm.
that's where you're going to be taken
Yeah.
care of
Hmm.
after school. And so, I definitely get that it's different, but being exposed to other cultures is, I think typically we look at how we're different, and people usually fight over differences, but for me, I think I was always like, well, we're a little different, but how are we more alike than we are different?
Hmm.
And that's kind of what's always driven me is that um and especially with the thought of starting the podcast, it's you I was sitting next to two strangers on either side of me at the Waffle House, hence it's called Men of the House. But we're all sitting there at the counter by ourselves, eating our breakfast alone. But I know that we all have these underlying truths that are kind of the same. We're all there alone, we're all in the same place. I'm like, hey, I'm up before my entire family. I'm going to get a little peace and quiet. What's the guy to the right of me like? What's the guy to the left of me? Like kind of what's their deal? And, you know, part of the podcast is exploring that
Yeah.
is, I think we all have some fundamental similarities, and we all want to love, be loved, and whatnot. And I think that looking at that and looking at those, looking at differences, but how can we learn from them?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Experience. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, did you, when you were bouncing back and forth between Colorado and Chicago, and you would get back to Chicago, did any of your old friends like from Chicago give you a hard time, like, oh, he's back, or
Yeah.
what's
Oh yeah.
changed?
Yep. Yep. They're like, oh, you probably went out there and got softened up and things like that. But it wasn't anything too crazy. It was
Yeah.
it was all right. One thing that I just thought about that was like super weird. Sorry about that. So it was super weird for me. So like in Chicago, I'm not sure how it is in Texas, but in Chicago, when you graduate from eighth grade, and then you go into high school. But there's a like an eighth grade luncheon or something like that.
Mhm.
So you have a luncheon. It's like a celebration, like I don't know, like a celebration of like, hey, so all my family members in Chicago, they all went to the luncheons, and I remember they get dressed up, and like it was just like this grand thing. And I was like the next person up, and I was like 3 years younger than the next person that had the luncheon. So I was looking forward to this eighth grade luncheon. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I happened to be in Colorado for it, and they didn't do that. So I was so hurt, man. Like for real, when I was in Colorado, I was like, yo, where's the like the luncheon and they're like, no, we just go to high school, dude. We don't do none of that. I'm like,
Yeah, we
bro, I
didn't
was
have we
hurt.
didn't have one of those either.
No.
And it's I noticed like too, but my wife's kind of like from the Houston area, and it's a lot bigger than where I'm from.
Mm,
And some of the like more metropolitan areas, they actually people go from high school, but then there's some schools that are dedicated strictly to freshmen.
Mm,
That you go your freshman year, all the freshmen go to one place, and then I think from 10 through 12, you might go to like a combined high school. But I think it's kind of one of those things of, you know, either maybe they're trying to keep everybody on the same page, or there's not too many influx of new people with the change, and
yeah.
maybe bullying or whatever high school kids do. Because I know, like, I graduated in the 90s, and that was probably about the time, like, it's kind of like we're dazed and confused, the
Hmm.
hazing type thing. And it's but it really wasn't prevalent where I was, because I grew up in a very small, like, 400 people, maybe 600 people by the
Oh,
time I left in the
oh, okay.
90s. So super small, but now it's like 5,000 people.
All right.
But we've gone from a two-way stop to a four-way stop, so kind of
Yeah. You.
big deal over here. Um, so you finish high school in Colorado or Chicago?
um, Chicago. I had to
Chicago?
think about it. Yeah, Chicago. I finished in Chicago. Um, I think I left like the middle of freshman year in Denver or Aurora. Um, and then I went back to Chicago, and that was it. That
Now,
was
did
it. Yeah.
you have any, like for me, I knew I wanted to be in the military, and I graduated high school a year early and joined the Navy.
Okay.
So, did you have what were you thinking about in high school? Like, what were your plans? What were you interested in? What did you think you were gonna do?
Um, First, thank you for your service.
Oh, you're
Uh,
welcome.
yeah.
It was my pleasure.
Okay. Yes. I'm gonna raise the roof a little bit some more for you, man. Thank you. Um, I don't. I'm thinking, man.
Well,
That's
because I know you went to college. So you
yes.
went to college. What did you go
Yeah.
to where'd you go to college, and what were your intentions? Like, what, did you were you like, "Hey, I'm going to get my basics out and kind of decide," or were you like, "Oh, I'm going to do political science," and then you get in college, and like a lot of people, sometimes they switch majors, and or they find their passion, maybe they're doing their basics and they take a class or something that just really resonates with them, and they're like, "Oh, I want to know more about this and I can't get enough of this."
Yeah.
How did
In
it
high
work for you?
school, I had no idea. I kind of took like the journeyman's approach to like college. Like I got
Hmm.
my degree. I ended up getting a bachelor's degree, but like I think I went to a total of like six schools. Like
Oh,
I was
wow.
kind of bouncing around. Yeah, I played ball for two schools. And then I just went to a couple of junior colleges to make sure I had my grades ready, and I was almost about to join the Navy actually.
Oh,
Oh, I
yeah.
forgot about that. Yeah, I went to I did the ASVAB. I
Hmm.
went and did the physical, and I was about to do it, and then something told me not to do it, and I wanted to wait. And sorry to get off topic, but
No, no, no.
like everything's like coming back right now.
Yeah. Hey, that's
Right.
the way the conversation goes. That's how we take it.
Yeah.
Because that's important
Yeah.
to
Hmm.
know, because I always say that, we're documenting things that, like, I have a 10-year-old daughter, and, there's going to be other people that listen to this, and they can go, they can look back, and if they hear it and go, "Hey, maybe I was going to do this," and figure out either was it good for them, why
Yep.
not? But I think it gives people perspective and options, especially young kids.
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
So what would you end up graduating with? What kind of degree?
Okay. I have my degree in entertainment and sports promotion. So like
Okay.
PR marketing. Yeah. So and then I have my minor in theater. So then we'll go back to like high schoolish. I wanted to be an actor or a comedian.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I ended up getting my minor in theater. I was in a couple plays. I directed a couple plays and did some stuff like that. But yeah, I wanted to be an actor or a comedian. And then I don't know, like I guess later on when I got older and started working, it's like, you join that workforce stuff. Hey, it crushes your dreams, man.
Oh, it does.
Like,
Well, and I'm a huge fan of comedy,
mhm,
and watch a lot of comedy, follow a lot of comics,
yeah,
listen to a lot of podcasts that are comedian related, and it's a it I know when I was growing up, that wasn't like a career option. Nobody told you about it. Kind of like, back in the 90s, like I just interviewed Kyle Smith, who's a musician, and he's 30. And back in our days, it was like, oh, I guess people would play their music, and if somebody liked them, they went to LA, they went to the Tower Records, played for the executives, and maybe signed a deal, and then they're going on tour. But he's unsigned, he does his own thing, he just grinds it out, and him and his band, they tour. And kind of comedians are the same way, like, but nobody really ever kind of explains that plan to you, that like that it's a viable career path, and maybe, but this is what you should know. Like,
Hmm.
you need to know that you're going to be traveling probably every Thursday through Sunday on
Yep.
the road doing shows and
Hmm.
this and that, the other. But it's kind of one of those things of everything. I know when I graduated, everything they pushed was very practical. I think even when you said like sports marketing type of a thing, like in in my frame of reference, like with my parents and whatnot, not even that was kind of a, it would seem impossible or like unattainable, or that's not like a real job. It's like, you need to go to college, you need to study engineering or something, or kind of something more practical. But for me, it was the Navy. Like growing up in a small town, 400 something people, I was like, I know there's a big old world out there, and I need to
Hmm.
get out of here. And that was kind of the main drive. But, like you said, um, you got out into the workforce. What was your first job out of college?
Oh, okay. Yeah. My first job out of college was I worked for an airline. I was like
Oh,
a
wow.
passenger service, like at the gates and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was so I graduated and I started putting my name like applying to like jobs for like sports agencies and things like that. I would have worked for free, you know. It just didn't happen. So I said I need some money. So I started working for the airline and I ended up staying with the airline for like 5 years,
Oh, wow.
something like that. Yeah, moved up to like manager and then I'm taking a promotion out of Chicago and moving to Kansas City with a promotion. So
Oh,
yeah.
wow. Well,
So
and this is an interesting thing because, now is so much different from, I guess, when I went to college. And, there's always this huge debate of like, do you need college? Do you not? You went into the airlines with a sports marketing degree. I had a bachelor's in health and kinesiology, and it was kind of a pre-med kind of majorish. I took healthcare law and was like, I don't want to be a physician. And, eventually ended up in healthcare management. But, um, I had my degree and some jobs in between that had nothing to do with my degree. And so there's this, some people are like, well, you have a master's in healthcare management, and now you do this, you podcast and you Uber, and you kind of do your own thing. Like, what's the value in that? And, I always say like the value to me is it was never really about the degree. It was
mhm,
really about the process of, um, like when I got my master's, it was like I had moved from Austin to where back home with a new job, from a kind of an associate to a manager. You're in grad school. I have a 1-year-old daughter, you know, a whole bunch of stressful things. Getting up
right.
at 5 in the morning, doing homework, going to work, doing homework after, doing homework on the weekends. Um, and it was really that process of kind of showing you what you're capable of managing when it's required. That was the value I got out of school. Now, some people, I needed to grow, and that was a way to grow. And, not everybody kind of sees it as that way. A lot of people see like you get the degree to do whatever it is you want to do, but it doesn't guarantee that.
Yep.
How do you feel about that statement?
Um
Did your
well,
college prepare you, give you any sort of skills that would later transfer, even though it wasn't within the same field?
Yeah. Um, so I'm man, I had a lot of crazy experience in college. Like, it taught me a lot. Like, so for one, I ended up playing basketball for the university and that I was going to, and I ended up quitting. Just basketball was not fun. I was depressed. Like when I go to practice every day and depressed, like it was like a job I didn't want to go to. So, basketball is supposed to be fun and you're supposed to enjoy it. And so my teammates, like we were brothers, so they knew like I was pretty unhappy. So they were cool. They didn't mind. But when I quit, I at the university, there's an Olympic training center at the university that I went to. So we have Olympic wrestlers, boxers, speed skaters, weightlifters. Um, yeah, so we have an Olympic training center for the athletes to go to school and train all year for the Olympics. And I end up knowing some of the boxers, and I end up getting in touch with the boxing coach. He heard about me, and he liked me, and he wanted to see me, and he talked to me, and he said, "Hey, I want you to be the liaison for the Olympic boxing team."
Oh,
And I was
wow.
like, "Okay." And I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "All right." So like I ended up going over there. I got a way better deal than basketball. Like I got room and board. I was getting paid. I lived with the boxers. I got room and board, in-state tuition. I mean, it was a great deal, and I could say I worked for the Olympic boxing committee team. Like
Yeah.
so. Yeah. So like I had to live with I don't know, maybe about 13, 14 boxers from like ages 14 to like 27 in a dorm on a college campus.
Sounds
Yeah, it
wild.
was lots of stories, man. Oh, lots of stories.
You
But
learn
that,
how to wrangle people and herd
yeah.
cats.
Oh, yeah. And the thing was like I got handpicked for it because I could do the job, because everybody loved being around me. And then I'm the type that I'm not I don't like aggression, So if one of the boxers started getting into something, instead of everybody getting riled up, I'm the one like, nah, 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 come on. We got to think better than that. Like, remember, you got a target on your back here. Like these guys out here, like they're causing trouble, but they have nothing to lose. You have a scholarship to lose, your Olympic hopeful, like you don't need to be doing this. So I would be there to hop in front. Hey,
That voice of
let's
reason.
yeah, all the time. And the boxers love me for it. Like they love me for it. And I ended up doing that for like 2.5, 3 years. And it was really good. And that also gave me some extra some like wisdom on how to like communicate, problem solving, um, thinking quickly on my feet. And also being able to just like the biggest thing that I can take away from it is communication because the guy that was doing the liaison job before me, none of the guys liked him. He was too busy trying to be their principal or they're like the dean of students. When I come in there, I'm like, hey, we live together. You know what I'm saying? We gonna hang out together. We gonna cry together, but we're family and we gonna look out for each other. So it was more of I was coming in as a brother than their boss or something like that.
It
So
kind of goes back to
it was,
your family values, being
mhm,
raised like that.
yeah, yeah, oh yeah. I love college though. It was wonderful.
Yeah, it's interesting that, it had me thinking kind of when you were talking about that, like it the college led you to this experience that maybe, you know, you just wouldn't have got otherwise.
Hmm.
And that was kind of the value of it. And, I'm not telling anyone go to college or don't go to college. It's totally up to you. Even my daughter, I'm like, you want to go, you go. But, you know, make sure you go, I think, for the right reasons. You have the right expectations. But what I love about that story is it really elaborates on the fact of um, you you never know where opportunities gonna come from,
Hmm.
and sometimes it's just by being in the situation or being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah,
And for you, you just happen to be in college, and that kind of happened to be a catalyst that also, gave you some tools, some real life tools you know that they're not teaching in the classroom.
yeah.
um, so on that, what so you did that for about 2.5 or 3 years. And after that, I mean, were you going to other colleges or you you got done with that, you went into the airlines, and then of course when you went into the airlines, um, how how was that experience in terms of what did you what did you like about it? What did you dislike about it? Maybe like let's say the corporate world. Was it different than you thought it would be? Kind of what made you stay and what what kind of skills did you learn throughout that little 5 year period of, let's say, moving from kind of a basic entry level out of college job to management?
Um, like again, the experiences from the liaison and the college that helped me be able to com communicate and identify, problem solve from a like a customer service point of view. Um, so when there's a customer that it's Christmas and they're trying to get home to their family and
Mm-hmm.
I got to tell them, hey, their flights are canceled for 2 days. Sorry, like we can't get out. It's weather, like it's nothing we out of our control. So like me being able to sit and talk to people and try to diffuse a bunch of different situations at once. Um, like I was really good at that. Like I was the person that, that they would be like, yo, Dell, like, hey, we need you over here. I could come over there. And it's a situation. I go over there because I don't get flustered. I'm like, hey, let me listen to the situation. I'm not gonna come over there with any judgments before I hear the situation. So let's talk. Hey, let's come to the side. We don't need to be around everybody. Like me and
Yeah.
you. Let's be, so we'll make it personal first. And I want to hear them. And then, hey, let's how can we get the problem solved like quickly, efficiently, and that way we can get it done. And because there's always something in the airline that has to be, there's always problems somewhere. But that helped me be able to like talk, communicate, and also I don't want to say delegation skills, but me like be able to time management. There we go. Time management. Be able to take on multiple projects and multiple tasks at one time and do it comfortably. So yeah,
Were
like
you nervous the first time they were like, "Hey, we need you to come over here. Like, we got some flights canceled and we got whatever it is, 50 people over here that aren't going to make it home, and we need you to handle this." How was that? Were
I,
you nervous? Were you like, "I got this," or kind of you just got into it? And I know, like for me, going into management and all the problems come to you, and the first time something doesn't deliver and they want to talk to you, and you got to figure out, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? What am I allowed to do? What am I allowed to offer? Because, sometimes you're in a new position and you don't even know what your company is going to allow you,
right. Hmm.
how
And
free they're going to let you be.
right. Yeah. And that's why you have to have a good system there in place for you to have like things should be set out. You got to know what you can. So if you go into a situation where you don't know what you can offer, that can really mess up the situation because the passenger can be like, you don't even know what you're talking about. And that's the
Did they
worst
did they
thing.
give you a good framework when you went there? Was there good like training and um
Yeah. Training
info
was
that kind of
good.
prepared you to actually, I want to say, to have some ownership of it? Because I think, you know, when you're part of a large organization, but you still have to take a level of ownership as if you were the owner of the company.
Hmm.
And did they allow for that?
Um, yes, and some managers like before I became in the management, some they had their own style. They wanted to kind of like they wanted to what's the word? Um,
Maybe keep
mul- uh
hands on it a little bit?
yeah, everything. Like it was just like you didn't have the freedom to do it the way that
You
you know
wanted
how to
to.
do it. So it was just like, hey, like like there's certain ones, some just like, hey, just get it done. It's cool. And if you have a problem, let me know. And that's kind of my thing. I don't want to sit here and watch over you do your job because that I wouldn't want people watching over me. When you need me, you let me know I'm there. Boom.
Because you
So
got your, when you're a manager, you got your own stuff to do.
Yeah, yep. Yeah. So I'm just like, hey, like, but you know, it's certain managers that you know, they have their own style. And like even if it's taken away from the playbook, you know, it's like, but you still, as long as everything's going out on time and the deadlines are there, it's cool. But the training that I received before I started, it was a lot of like web, like on computer based,
Hmm.
you know, problems like, hey, this passenger just, you know, couldn't do this. Like, how would you do that? It was kind of an intense, I won't say intense, but it was like one of the like when you apply, they give you
Hmm.
that like a questionnaire. And I know three people that didn't pass it that I was like there with. I'm like, dang. But I mean, it was some quite some I don't remember the questions like exactly, but it was like questions that you really like you walked into this this process of applying like you didn't think that you would be thinking like this. Like it was a
Right.
lot of like, yeah. So um they did that to kind of weed through like, hey, can you handle this job? Like,
Yeah.
let's see where your brain is. So we get in there and then, you know, you get on the computer for weeks, couple weeks, then you get your training. But they did a good job of training and the whole airline experience for me, it was a cool transition because I mean, I love to talk. Like I worked for the Gap like when I was in Chicago when I was a little
Hmm.
younger. I went to the Gap and I started off as like, I don't know, cashier. Then I was like fitting room dude. And they were like, yo, like I would go to the door. I'd be like the door grader guy at the Gap in there, and I would be there doing my thing. And they're like, yo, the manager want to see you. I'm like, oh shit, what? So I go in there and they're like, hey, how would you like to be full-time door greeter? Because like everybody would rotate. They're like, yeah, we want you at the door because people love you at the door. Your energy's there. You bring people in, you know, just from you being there. So like they made a whole damn position just for me because of that. I don't know, just
Well, it
I,
like
I
sets the tone. Like, it's
yeah,
almost like there's like these things and like with a podcast, they're like, you want to grab the audience's attention in the first 90 seconds, just like a movie or
yeah,
something. But that's
mhm,
kind of what it makes me think of is, having that right energy at the front door automatically sets the tone for the customer walking in. And if they
yeah,
walk in happy and in a good mood, then, you know, they might part with some of their money there. And that's from
that's
kind of
right.
like a big business point of view. But on like a secondary note, like um, back in the early 2000s, like all my jeans came from the Gap. They fit me the best. I liked it there, but
Yeah,
it's kind of like one of those things like I was going to go there anyway.
mhm,
But, you know, if you find somebody who's got that energy and who's doing great, it makes it more pleasurable
yeah,
than than somebody who's kind of dialing it in, going through the motions. Oh, this is just a
right.
job.
Yeah.
That's kind of like
Hi.
where I go back to
Hello.
like this Uber thing is
Mm,
like, it doesn't matter the places I've been and the things I've done. Whatever it is, I'm going to give it 100%. And
yes.
I do the same thing with Uber and I enjoy it. I enjoy, when I go to pick up, um, I enjoy talking to the hostess, the people who are preparing the food or whatever it may be, try to make
Mhm,
them smile, try to let them have a good day. And, to me, it's kind of like that's really more so what it's about than the actual job. Cause I think, you know, like from the big business point of view, I mean, if you get people in the right frame of mind, then typically um, you're going to get a better experience. And,
yep. Mhm,
like with healthcare and retail now, everybody's got a survey on, CVS. How did we
yep.
do?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
want to know. And everything is
Yeah.
very much so with this, you know, satisfaction.
Mhm,
And I think I don't know how I feel about it. Like, I feel good. I mean, people don't usually fill them out unless they have bad service and they want to
yeah.
complain.
Right.
Um, but I feel like, I don't know. I feel like companies should always be striving for the best that you really shouldn't need a survey. You should only really need like if you're doing poorly, if you're not delivering. Kind of
I,
like I think these surveys are like, oh, we can pat ourselves on their back and blow smoke up our own ass and all kinds of stuff and sit around the water cooler and suck each other off on how good we did. It
Yo,
doesn't necessarily make it so.
yeah, I love that you brought that up because there's a company that used to be all about customer service. They love their customers and they love their employees. But like, it's like it's one of the biggest companies in the world. And over the years, that core value, family value, employee value, that shit is gone. So it's getting worse out here. So I know this company because I actually work for this company. I used to.
Mhm.
Um, and 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 I don't fill out the surveys, but
I
like
don't either.
I've been I've been having so much shitty experiences going to this place, and I saw it coming because I was there. I was there doing the shit for the company for 10 years. Like, oh, I know the ins and outs. The company, like, it's so like it's money. They don't give a shit about the customer because now it's like you can't even grab shit that you need at certain stores because the shit's locked up in cases and you gotta wait
Oh
20
yeah.
minutes for it.
It's springtime, the perfect moment for fresh starts and new discoveries. My name is Amanda Hope, host of Magic and Metamorphosis podcast. I am part of the Podcast Connection Network, just like the show you're about to listen to. Check us all out. The link is in the episode's description. See you soon.
So like, and then they have no one there to get it. So you got to sit there and wait 30 minutes. So like that right there, that takes away from the customer's experience. Then you're sitting there wasting the customer's time. And it's just like, yo, like now I'm gonna start filling out these surveys because it shouldn't take me 35 minutes to get a damn bottle of body wash when I'm just
Yeah.
sitting there, right? So like, and then the employees are not treated good anymore at these companies. So the employee, they're not happy. They're just there to get the money. And then it's just like, damn, but you do have a lot of employees out there that they're happy. They love the job. But like if these companies like really looked out for their employee and got back to keeping them happy and keeping them motivated to come represent their company the right way, like I think that will also help change society because companies are flaky.
Yeah, well, it's one of those
Boy.
things of like, you know, if you work for a large company like that and they're not great to the employees, but you kind of, I don't know. I'm an A type personality. I want to enjoy what I do. And so like even if a company's not treating me right, I kind of I set my own little goals, my own little standards that I make for myself. And, it's the same way kind of with Uber pickups. I mean, it's become so much about a bottom line that, I go in so many places that, and it's not just McDonald's or Taco Bell, these are other restaurants that have this, they want people to order from the kiosk. Nobody will come to the counter. Nobody will look you in the eye because if they look you in the eye, then that means they got to help you and they don't want to help you. And,
Mm,
I'm sitting around waiting 20 minutes um, just to get an order. And that means the customer's waiting. And that means I'm going to get dinged. Or the other day I had like a double pickup. One was fast and the second one was slow. And I mean, there was one table in the restaurant, but there was between the cook and two waiters, there was three people working on like bagging something up and making a milkshake. And it was like, holy hell, I got food dying in my car,
yeah,
and I got to make two deliveries, and everybody's just kind of like, oh, la di da di da.
yeah.
And it's like, you know, I, I don't know, like I think, it really resonates what you said about you got to remember that these people are representing your brand.
Hmm.
Um, and if you thought of it like a CEO, like, hey, like this is my podcast. Flakedemic is your thing. You're not going to hire people who don't get it, don't support it, or who are going to half-ass it
Yeah.
because this is your passion. Now, I don't care if it's Southwest Airlines, Target, Walmart, all these companies started the same. One
Yeah.
person had an idea. Either it was a service they wanted that wasn't provided, or it was something that they saw a need for.
Hmm.
And they're like, we're going to make this. And they put in all this hard work. And, you know, one that comes to mind is Planet Fitness. And, you know, I guess the guy who founded it sold it maybe in 2017 and maybe stayed on as like a chief administrative officer for a little bit. And then, of course, he gets either booted out or resigns or takes a buyout or something. And then they bring a whole bunch of people in to do the whole thing. And here we are in 2024. And, they're on the kind of cancel culture side for, having men shaving in the women's bathroom with, um, you know, it'd be the
Mm,
equivalent of if my wife and daughter were in a women's locker room and you know, a trans person was shaving in there. I mean, I don't have any problem with you
mm,
can be whatever it is you want to be. I don't really care. But,
yeah,
like you can't there's still boundaries. And
yeah,
I don't even
yep,
care if it's $15 a month or $10 a month, whatever it is their low price is. If you've noticed the ads, they're actually discounting it. It's $1 to join and now it's $5 off
yeah.
whatever that original price was because they're scrambling. But I don't know if it was a podcast or an article I heard this past week on this exact topic.
Mm,
And, for somebody, a creator, to create something that is a passion project, whether it's to make health and fitness affordable and not non-judgmental and not messing with all the gym rats and, beef heads. It's kind of like they do that and he's been rousted out of his own thing and now it's just taking a dive. And I think people, you know, the people at the
I bet he
top,
hates to see that too. He's
yes,
got to hate to see that. Like
that
it's
was
like,
that was the
yeah,
biggest
that's
thing. You see your
yeah,
baby just crumble in
yep,
front of you.
man.
And it's very, very relevant to kind of what we're talking about in that um I don't know, I just it's a whole different experience if you can get your associates to buy in.
This is
But it
why.
starts at the top.
Yes, yes, yeah. And you have to stay consistent because we all know at the top it's movement. But
Right.
like, don't you can't hire someone to take over that has a whole different direction because it's almost like an NFL team or any professional team. You got this momentum going. You get rid of this coach. Now it's a whole different process that these players have to learn. So then now like that's retraining, and they have to get accustomed to a new set of demands or rules. But like you got to keep the same vision because you can't have one CEO come in and be all about making money, but he's like, the employee will get there, we'll take care of him. And then, or I'm sorry, the opposite of like, hey, I'm employee first, but the money's gonna come because the employee is gonna push us to get the money. Then you got the other guy, hey, money, employee will get him there, but it's all about the bottom line. Or the dot, but like, yeah, that's two different things. One guy is gonna treat the employee and make sure he keeps them engaged and rewarded. You got to reward employees out here. You got to even if it's like a discount to a product that you have or something. Um, but you got to do that. Like when you change ship and you change direction, it looks bad. And I went through that with my last job in the workforce. I
Right.
don't want to go back. I'm never going back to the workforce if I don't have to. So
That's actually the I feel the same way because it's it's just such a turn off. But the thing is that I think you're able to see it in everyday life and kind of the consequences of it. And it's but we're in such a different time, when we went through the Industrial Revolution and people started building and all these companies were founded on some sort of foundation. It's like you're coming out of like World War II and all that. And um, there's a where everybody kind of supported the country and there was like a common good and everybody was moving in the same direction.
yeah,
And, I I don't know when, but it's definitely in the last 10 years I've noticed probably the most,
Hmm.
I think.
Hmm.
And it might be even less. I mean, of course the whole pandemic did a whole other thing to it, but I think it had to have started somewhere a little before.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you think so? Did you see it in your industry?
Yeah, I did. I did. Um, and yeah, and I don't know. I thought about it too, and I don't know. Is it automation? Is it technology? Is that does that play a little bit of part of it? Or
Possibly because if you're looking to put more onus on the customer to do their own
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Um, but I think with like technology, it becomes um, everything becomes less personal in a way. Like, people text, people do this. But like the other night, you and I talked about like, it was like whatever, midnight, 1 o'clock my time. But, we had the conversation. But on the other hand, like, where technology might kind of interfere, but it's also like technology that's allowing us to do what we're doing right now,
yeah, yeah.
but be face to face, even though we're in two totally different places.
Hmm.
So I think it's kind of I think technology certainly plays a part, but like anything, you know, it could be good or bad. I think
Yeah,
it depends on if you allow it to run the show and you don't use it properly. I mean, it's like, I'm not promoting people take Oxycontin, but I bet if you had cancer or, had to have, you broke your femur in a car crash or you had a hip replacement, then you're going to need some sort of pain management, even if it's short
yeah.
term. There's a time and a place for it,
Hmm.
but it's not to let it take over almost like it did with, big pharma, and that becomes the sole driving force. And I think technology has kind of been maybe the same way in that, um, you know, like when you walk in and you see the kiosk and they want you to order your food
Yeah,
from a kiosk. And, there's just people who, let's say 20, 30 years older than me. My dad, he is not that tech savvy. He's not going to want to do that. But I've been waiting for orders to deliver, and I see older people go to the counter and wait for 10 or
yeah,
15 minutes
yeah.
just because nobody mans the counter anymore.
Can I share a story?
Yeah, awesome,
Check
definitely.
this out. Yeah. So the company that I work for, I would travel around and I would install like self checkout systems in these in these stores. Man, when I go to these different cities and states, like yo, like I'm sitting there, the contractors are doing their thing, and I'm making sure everything's good and double checking. But like I would always have customers walking by, like, why the hell are you putting that shit in here? And they're like so upset, like they're pissed. Like, we're not gonna use that shit. And like, sorry, man, like this is it's a company rollout. Like, I'm just here to make sure everything gets set up. But like I'm in, and I'm telling, the lady, I'm like, they will have man registers also. You don't have to use these. But like now that I'm looking at some of these places, like, no, there's probably like one person and it's like 90 self-checkouts, one or two people there to help 77 people. And it's like, ooh, now they lost it. They lost their vision was to make it efficient, but now it's not working. And but it was just weird to like every city, like people would be so mad at me
Well,
that
you see that though. Like I feel like there's been articles where people didn't want it, the companies forced it, but now it's not just a matter of that, but you said key word was they wanted it to be more efficient, but
mhm,
now aren't they scaling back because there's too much loss, like theft?
yep, yep, loss. And your customer service goes down like so much when you have no one there to run your operation. Like you gotta have the people there. Yeah, like you put these machines in here because you don't want to have people in here. But and I always used to, you know, have people say like, oh, that company sucks or whatever, that
Hmm.
company treat their employees so bad that you work for. And for a long time, like forever, before my incident, like I would always say no, like it's not the company, the employee. If you don't come to work, that's on you. If you're late to work every day, if they fire you, that's not the company, that's you.
Did you ever
Like
have
so like
to go ahead?
no, it's just I would defend it, like but
Hmm.
certain things I would just defend because I would always hear these stories about like how, but no, like actually this company that I did work for, like some of the best years of my life came out of this company. Like they did a lot of good things for me and my family and for me, like period. It is for growth, is for traveling and seeing the world and being able to hone my skills and as in communicating and things like that.
Hmm.
And build a resume up. But yeah, like that was just crazy to me.
Now, did you ever find yourself like in those little towns or wherever, maybe kind of, I wouldn't say, maybe I would say defending, maybe I would say drink the Kool-Aid a little, but to kind of explain to customers how this was gonna make it better, more efficient?
All the time. I had to, like and it worked. It worked.
Right.
Like I said, like I would talk to them and let them know. Some people they got it,
Hmm.
and other ones they just when they saw it, they were like when you see self-checkouts getting built and you're pissed, like that's a problem. Like walking around and just like pissed, like, oh, this bullshit. Like, we don't need that shit here. Take that. Oh yeah.
Hmm.
One guy said, take that to the like I was in a small town, and he's like, take that shit to the city. We don't need that here. We have people. Oh, he said, we have people here that wants to work and
Yeah.
you're taking jobs away from people. I'm like, I'm not taking jobs away from anyone, man. Like, but like that's some of the conversations that I would have to diffuse and things like that. Like that dude, I couldn't diffuse him. He just,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think he might have threw like his bread at me or some shit at one point. Like,
But it kind of goes back to like what we talk about, like technology and using it for benefit and time and place now.
mm-hmm,
Myself, I'm like, if I'm going in to the grocery store and we need milk and bread, I love self-checkout. I don't want to wait behind somebody who's got a cart full of groceries. And I mean, you have express lanes, but those can kind of get packed up too. But, I think really the transition has been where, I mean, Sam's has scan and go, where
mm-hmm,
you can have everything on your phone. You scan your items and you pay for it right there, and you can avoid getting in the checkout at Sam's. I mean, there's some benefits and there's time and place for where it is efficient and
yeah,
whatnot. But, I think like anything, kind of like the drug companies, once it starts getting overdone, then it turns into the problem because now you've replaced three cashiers with one, and now you got one cashier watching 10 self-checkouts.
mm-hmm,
Um, and, yes, companies account for a percentage of loss, but, apparently it's large enough to where they're starting to reconsider.
yeah,
Although
yeah,
I haven't seen it in person, I feel like I feel like where we are, some of the self-checkout areas like keep getting bigger, like neighborhood market and whatnot. I just see more like they're rearranging the store in a way that there's definitely less cashiers and more self-checkout.
yep,
But I don't know,
mm-hmm,
it's uh it's kind of a catch 2022 in that um I don't I'm curious what the future of it will hold, you know,
yep, mm-hmm,
because the one thing is that, I think within any organization, labor is your biggest cost.
yep,
And so they're always gonna try to do that, but you don't get any personality, any checkout experience, I guess you could say, because think about if you think about some people, especially maybe retired people, and depending on how big their community is, um, and whatnot, or how mobile they are, sometimes that getting out to whether it's a Dollar General, or a small neighborhood market, they go there for kind of the communion, the
Yeah.
fellowship,
Yeah.
the to talk to the person, or like you said, in a small town where people want to work, um, it's taken away that job, but it's also taken away that kind of, it's different when you go into a place and the same person checks you out and they know your name and they know to ask you like, "Oh, how's your kid doing?"
Hmm.
Or, did your team win the softball game or something like that? It
Yeah.
just it takes experience to a whole new level. And part of, like, at the Podcast Connection Network, we talk about connectivity a lot
Yeah.
and being connected with one another. And um, I think, by doing that, it takes away that connection. The only way you're getting connected is if your little red light goes off because you didn't scan something right, or
Yeah. Yep.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to come and talk to you unless that happens. Or, like, maybe in your case, unless the product's locked up and you need somebody to come and open it.
Yep. Yeah. Man, it's weird. It's funny. I had did a TikTok video on just that thing. Like it was like a meme with like Tom Hanks like yelling for help on the island, but it was like cases locked up with body wash. I'm just like, yo. So I put this TikTok on there, and then a week later, I needed body wash, and my ass sat there for 35 minutes by this case with waiting on someone. It was a guy there too. He left. He was there for like 10 minutes. He left. I'm like, damn, man. But I just didn't want to go anywhere else, so I stayed. But like, that's crazy. 35 minutes.
Oh, for body wash, especially. I mean, I guess it's different if you're in San Francisco because they got a whole different other problem. But it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, that's their problem is more from the outside. But you're actually seeing tons of businesses actually vacate there.
Mm.
Um, but let's get into, so I want to talk about what we talked about in the beginning with flakiness,
Hmm.
and the flakedemic. So kind of before this started, when you were in this organization and you're building your resume and doing all this, did you even, was flakiness and even on your mind?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And what
Yeah.
was it about it? When did kind of I don't want to say the term, it's not really the concept, because I think the
Yeah.
concept as a whole is a lot bigger. When did
Mm.
the concept of it, like, kind of just strike you and go, um, this is something that you notice, and that I don't know why it makes me feel a certain way, but I'm taking note to my self-awareness and the way I feel, and I'm
Yeah.
going to explore this deeper, because
Hmm.
I think at some point you had to have, like, some sort of moment where you noticed it. And then, after we discuss kind of some of your story, you'll go through why it became more at the forefront and kind of what you're all about. But what was that first little light bulb moment that said, hmm, this is
Um,
flaky?
yeah. I think working is it really started when I was working when I started working for the my last previous employer. It was like a lot of people. Like I work for the corporate. I was corporate, so I would travel
Hmm.
around and sometimes be with like teams and things like that. But I just started noticing like flakiness within leadership of just like not keeping their word, but also having their own agenda. But like how like personal gain though, like personal gain while you're in management for a large company is no good though. It's like so that like I started noticing how people wouldn't keep their word or they would handle certain situations differently than others. And when I started noticing, I kind of like started questioning or started asking like why is this? Like why are we why are we getting told to do certain things when we're not supposed to be doing this? Like it's but our boss though had her own, like we go back to certain bosses doing things differently. Like I had this boss where it was just like for 3 years, like we bust our ass for her, 2 years, bust our ass like all the time. And like she just like stabbed all of us in the back out of nowhere. Like it came out of nowhere. And just like she just became this like villain, but no, like we didn't even see it. But it was flaky because I said that was the first flaky one because like it was like it got personal. This is another situation where it got personal when we knew each other's families, we hung out outside of work, but it went just like nowhere. When this person, like when they got caught doing whatever they were doing, it was just like disappear. But like they weren't there for the employee, and there was a couple situations where us as managers, like we were like, yo, like this is bullshit. Like we shouldn't be talked to like this. But it was accepted. It was accepted by, the higher ups and things like that. But that's when it started becoming flaky. And then I started noticing more and more, like no one keeping their word. No one was reliable. No one would stand by this shit that they should have been standing by. And that's when I really started notice it. And then it started seeping into my personal life, relationships, friends, So then I'm like, yo, like there is a pandemic of flakiness out here because it's everywhere.
Yeah, that's kind of a whole thing. Like, I definitely find that as a frontline manager, you're kind of, there always seems to be a disconnect somewhere between the top, like, you know, because when you're the frontline person, you have to abide by all the rules, the standards, the mission statement. You're the face of the mission statement,
Yeah.
you know? But then when you see the people above you that either the rules don't apply, the same rules don't apply, um, it's definitely a cause for concern,
Yep. Yeah.
you know?
And it can actually turn into something terrible. Like it can really lead to bad things. So
Yeah, well,
yeah.
and the thing is though is, I think the hardest part of that too is, if as a frontline manager, you're the you're the one leading the team
Mhm.
and your team is going to vibe off of you.
Yeah.
And if you're confused or because I think the confusion comes from I think in some sense we all buy in the beginning. Like let's say if you're a manager kind of in your management career, you're getting this opportunity to lead people. You're going to drink the Kool-Aid. And I think maybe especially if you're a type A personality that likes to succeed, um, then you put in more buy-in because you want to believe that the people above you are like you,
Yeah.
that they hold themselves to the same standard that they're trying to hold you to.
Mhm.
But it's not often the
Right.
case, and then you're stuck there if you don't feel 100% or you feel, let's say, like maybe it's just not right, your team can read that. And then it's just kind of that trickle down effect of it makes it, I think, hard, but I think sometimes, we kind of have to hide it, you know, and
Yep.
I don't like that either because then you're not telling the truth. Like, if you're the manager and you get a piece of information and like your team has heard pieces of it, but you don't want it to be worse than it actually is. And you find out and you kind of got to be like, or you got to figure out a way to spin it, break it to them
Yeah.
while
Yep.
keeping their buy-in. And,
Right.
I think usually it's definitely um, an easy example is around labor and labor shortage. Anytime it's like, it might be like, oh, they let somebody go. Now you're working short staffed. And then you're one up or two up are like, no, we don't really want you to replace that person. We just want you to work short staffed and make it happen. And,
Yep.
we want you to do, all the extra work of one person and still have no overtime on your books and still,
Yeah. Yeah. You're giving me flashbacks right now. My,
you face the same challenges and we were in different fields, so I'm sure it's, you know, I I don't know. I really want to hope, and I would like to have hope that there's still people out there that want to do the right thing from the top down. And if nothing else, I think, like I said, the importance of this conversation and having it is that um, you and I don't want to go back into those situations, but there's going to be people who are, I have daughters who are 19 and 21 that, they're in the workforce. They're going to be, one may go to college, but they're going to, they're going to be these people. And it's like, yeah, maybe they're capable of being the CEO of one of these companies one day, but you
yeah.
know, hopefully they're they can hear something like this and go, "Oh, like it really needs to be about this." Or maybe it opens their eyes and they can see like, "Oh, I was at this entry level job and I saw how my manager was flaky." I mean, I think our 21-year-old, it was like she was an assistant manager at a place and she wants to go back to school and they were just totally unwilling to work with her. So
Mm,
she's like, "Fuck you.
right.
I'm
Yeah.
out." But
Yep.
and that's just kind of that thing I don't get is like if you have somebody's good that you trust running your meetings and being a manager, like your job as a leader is to help your people get wherever it is they want to go.
Yep.
And all I would ever ask is that, hey, I'll help you get wherever you want to go. Just while you're here, be here, be
Yeah.
present.
That's
And
it.
and it's kind of one of those things of, sometimes people would always be like, if someone leaves and they're like, "Oh, now we got to look for another person," when they were good. Yeah, but they had somewhere else to go.
Hmm.
And as long as they fulfilled a role while we needed it.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Sometimes it's like relationships. Some relationships are in your life, they're temporary, they teach you something. They give you a lesson, a piece of wisdom, and they move on,
Yeah.
you know? And I think it's very similar. But um so what was it so we've gotten into kind of where you started noticing flakiness and then you started what's a good example of some people being flaky like in your personal life where you started noticing that?
Man, I thought you'd never ask. Um,
And do you think it
s-
has anything to do with the influence of like let's say we all spend these 8 hours a day at these corporate jobs or whatever, and you're being flaked on by your higher ups. They're being flaked on by their higher ups, and then all of a sudden they bring that flakiness into, or do you think they're just flaky people?
when it comes to management, though, when it come to from my experience, like when I really started really seeing it, I think some people in management sometimes they're forced to be flaky. Like
I
we
think so
talked about the
too.
higher ups, yeah, like they're giving that like some project. Well, like that person knows like that's not right, but it's my job to do that because it's coming from the top, and that's that leads exactly how I got hurt on my on the job. I got hurt because of that. Um, but
Walk us
for
through that kind
personal,
of a little bit.
okay. So I know I was doing this job for 10 years, traveled the country doing these projects. Particularly this one project was having problems. So I was sent there in the maybe middle of the project to try to help out. I was there to help as a manager. I get there and they shifted someone out, same level as me, that was in charge of the project. They shipped they shipped her out because something was going on in the project. Shipped her out, moved someone else there that was in charge. That was there, had them move in, had me come and help. I thought I was going to assist. The problem is we didn't have the resources that we needed to do this project. I've never ran into this situation before in my 10 years. We get there to these cities, we have a team to do the work. We're not there to do the work. We're project managers, project and construction managers.
Mhm.
So I'm there, and I started noticing there's no one doing this work. So I'm like, how has this project been going on for 5 months with not one person to do the work? And then I found myself doing the work, and I'm out here doing the work dangerously.
Now,
And I'm like,
did somebody
mm,
ask you to do the work? Did you say, "Hey, why? Where are the people to do the work?" And they're like, "Well,
every
you
day.
kind of need it," or was it like kind of like you're that A-type personality, you want to succeed, you take it upon yourself to try to get things done? Because
Mm,
I know management will do that whole spin thing like, well, this person can't get it done. We're sending you in, and you feel like, okay, it's because I got something that they don't, and I can handle this, or I have the results to prove it. And
a
then
little bit of that,
a little bit of it,
yeah,
all of
a
it.
little bit of that, but also a lot of flaky. So I didn't know it was a lot of flaky shit going on before I got to the project, and that's why they shipped the other person out.
Thanks for listening to part one. Tune in next week to hear part two, where I discuss with Dell the injury that led to his corporate exit, also which led to him starting the Flakedemic. If you enjoy this content or any other past content, please share it with your friends and family. Go to Apple, Spotify, Google, or Amazon and leave a review. You can also follow my link tree that'll give you everywhere that the podcast is offered, and it'll also allow you to donate to the show. Thank you and have a great day.
Let go.